don't get emotionally attached to your idea.
That is hard. That's very hard.
Sure.
How do you not become emotionally attached with your idea? Your idea?
With refinement.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid of things that they're not familiar with. I think I know enough about the basics of technology not to be afraid. And therefore, I tend to experiment more than most.
Interesting. But I'd love for you to get briefly into the difference between McDonald's and the burger joint down the road.
Okay, you want to go there?
Yes. Please.
He asked me if you know the difference. Oh, do you know anything about firewalls? I was like, of course I know everything about firewalls.
Did you?
And he's like, yeah, tell me more.
Okay.
I said, well, a firewall.
I'd also like to get personal a little bit, and I'd love for you to share your journey around mentorship and what that's done for you so far.
So let's talk about principles first.
Right, Andrew Moodley, thank you so much for joining us on the Resonate podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. So I'd like to give our audience a bit of just a gist on who you are and the kind of person that you are and the things that you like. So we're going to get up into a fire round of questions as we kickstart this, but there's a disclaimer. You only get one pass. Yeah?
Okay, cool.
All right.
And
Name?
I want to apologize in advance to your audience for having to hear my torrid life story. Or whatever question you're going to ask.
Okay,
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm super excited. I've been looking forward to actually having you on the podcast. So shall we go?
Sure.
All right.
So,
Name?
whose name?
Your name.
My name is Andrew Moodley. Yes, that's my name. My middle name is JC.
JC.
There's an interesting story behind that. And yes, Andrew is my real name.
Okay. Andrew's your own. It sounds like an avatar. Very interesting.
Somebody
All right.
asked me once, how did you get the name? And I went like, how everybody else gets a name.
Which
My
is?
parents gave it to me.
Okay.
It's self-evident, right?
Was there some like sentimental story to it?
No, probably you can say there is a backstory to it. My parents wanted to name me after a biblical character because my family was, my entire family, when we came from a background of Hindu priests.
Yeah.
And then I was the first child born into the family after they became Christians. So they wanted to acknowledge that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting story that we'll talk about it sometime.
Okay. Interesting. Hopefully today. Last book you read?
I'm currently reading 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Okay.
I like historical fiction. There's a big backstory to Jules Verne. It was interesting and how he wrote his books and stuff. So I enjoy literature, like classic literature. And before that, so the book I finished, so I'm still reading that. The book I finished is Beyond Longberg's 12. I forgot the name now.
Okay.
I'll remember just now.
Okay.
But basically, it's a book about. So he's an environmentalist / strategic thinker, and he says and he talks about in the book. He talks about there's a big ESG movement, sustainability, etc. And he says some of the solution. Also, tying it back to the sustainability goals. And he says a lot of companies and a lot of big business wants these massive things to happen, and I call them things. These massive things to happen to change the direction of this climate crisis.
Yeah.
And then he recommends the 12. He recommends the 12 things. I'll put things for now.
Yes.
The 12 things that you can do in terms of practical solutions that will change the lives, and especially of those that are less privileged than the rest of us. Because he talks about sustainability should not harm the poorest of us or the most vulnerable of us. And most of the time when you talk about let's go to sustainable packaging, somebody has to pay for it.
That's
and generally it's those that are affected the most by changes in price in the economy, not those that are wealthy. So it's a very interesting take on how you can think about driving sustainability, but also improving the lives of people now.
Oh, interesting. So basically coming up with solutions for the future, but those solutions have
solutions for the future that are practical to do now.
I like that.
And that you will see a meaningful impact in it in 6 to 12 months rather than 6 to 12 years.
Interesting. I like that. Your favorite pastime?
I like reading and I like talking to people.
Okay.
And sometimes I do both.
All right. Years in the industry?
In the telecommunications industry, I'm going on 24 years now.
24
25.
years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a lifetime, eh?
Yeah.
But I started young. I started when I was 3. No, I'm joking.
Oh my gosh.
That's my marriage joke. I'm married.
Is it? You started when you were 3?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you?
Child bride kind of vibe. Yeah.
Wow, Andrew. What do you look forward to every morning?
Waking up.
Are you a 5 a.m. Club person?
I wouldn't call myself a 5 a.m. club. I think I started the club a long time ago. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
I was the youngest of 3 boys.
Okay.
So if I didn't, we had one bathroom in our house. So if I didn't get to the bathroom on time, I wouldn't get ready for school on time. So I trained myself to wake up early. And then I maintained that habit because I realized there was a benefit to doing it. That, you know, you get more time, you buy yourself more time, there's less stress, there's less pressure. So yeah, I wake up early. I enjoy waking up early. Problem with waking up early is being on holiday. Because how do you wake up early on holiday? Because it seems counterproductive, right?
Oh,
You're
so do you
supposed to
wake
be
up late
rested.
on holiday?
No, I
Okay.
can't because I wake up early.
Oh my gosh. So you're the person that wants to get things started like
Yeah, and
immediately.
then also I think it's my personality type. I like to get things done. So I always say I go from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds in the morning. So as soon as I wake up, I can start getting things done. My wife doesn't enjoy that because she was like, oh.
So you're a
no.
sprinter.
Yeah. I'll just say I like to get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, so in a nutshell, that is Andrew J Moodley, who's the Chief Digital and Marketing Officer at Access. I looked through your profile and there was just so many things that I picked up, and I thought to myself, what a very educated gentleman. What piqued your interest in sales, technology, and just the digital landscape?
It's I think I stumbled into the industry. There's people that choose to be in the industry, in any industry.
All right.
And there's people that stumble into it. I stumbled into it. I wanted to be a scientist. So and that's the only thing I knew. And then back when I was in high school, I thought being a scientist is an interesting thing. And I had an affinity for maths and physics. So I wanted to be a scientist. And I dabbled in computers, and I had a little software company, but that was for entertainment. One never thought that one can be a computer and make money from technology. And then how I stumbled into the industry was I was walking one day, I remember quite clearly, I saw this poster for this internet company advertising for people. It wanted to have, looking for employees. So I went, I applied, I got the job. I didn't know what it was about. I remember he's now a customer of ours. I remember the gentleman who interviewed me. He asked me if you know the difference. Oh, do you know anything about firewalls? I was like, of course I know everything about firewalls.
Did you?
And he's like, yeah, tell me more.
Okay.
I said, well, a firewall is a dirt road between 2 fields of sugarcane. And what it does is it prevents the one field, if it gets satellite, from jumping over and burning the other field. And he looked at me and he goes like, I suppose you don't know much about firewalls, but you understand the principle. And he gave me the job. And that's how I got into the technology world. And I've had the bug ever since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting story. Do you think that there's a correlation with understanding the principle of something, even if you don't fully understand the actual meaning of it?
Yeah, I think I'm not afraid of technology. I think if you grow up young enough with something, then I'm always impressed by these people that are able to catch black mambas and stuff. I'm afraid of snakes. Not afraid
Me too.
I'm afraid of. I wouldn't want to go and catch a black mamba.
I'm terrified.
But I think also it's because of lack of understanding. You don't understand the principles. You're not familiar with it, and you haven't been groomed into how to handle. So I think I started young enough, like when I was in school. With my neighbor's computer. So I'm not really afraid of technology. And because I've dabbled so much with technology, I have an affinity for it now. I think about it and I'm not scared of technology. And I think that helps me a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid of things that they're not familiar with. I think I know enough about the basics of technology not to be afraid. And therefore, I tend to experiment more than most.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk martial arts. I know in your case, Aikido.
Yeah.
Has learning the discipline aided in any way in your career?
Well, I started wanting to do Aikido because when I was young, there was a movie star that did Aikido. And then where I grew up, nobody did it. But
Who was the movie star?
It was Steven Seagal, but he's not well loved anymore. So let's move ahead. And then when I came to Johannesburg, and then for many things, and I was looking for a sport that I could do with my boys there. They were growing up, and something that I could do with them and keep pace with them. And then I remembered and I did some research, and I found this club, and then we started going together. The nice thing about it is it's a non-aggressive martial art. It's a new martial art. It's probably the most beautiful martial art in terms of the movement and what it looks like, but it's also it's quite dynamic in terms of what you can do with it. But also people at all ages and levels. It's got a nice handicap system. People at all levels and ages can participate on one another, and so that's how I got into Aikido, and I really enjoyed the primarily that I had an opportunity to do it with my boys as they were growing up.
Yeah.
And then we could have a common journey together. It was something out, it was brand new to me and something brand new to them. But because of the handicap system, we grew, we developed together. Well, actually, my sons did a little bit better than me. But yes, we developed together.
Interesting. So I can imagine it has a couple of principles and there's just certain things about it that I wouldn't know anything about. What are some of the principles that you learned from Aikido that you would, advise me as, let's say, a solopreneur or somebody that's trying to be successful in their entrepreneurial journey?
If we're going to create a correlation, I'd say you use one of the words discipline.
Okay.
I think in life we got to take on things, or in the state of I was talking about not being afraid. We got to take on things and challenges, not knowing what the future may hold, taking that on. But knowing that there's a few things you can be certain of. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. It's going to try you. You're going to feel like giving up. You're going to get hurt. And you're going to have to learn to stand up. Yeah. And then in Aikido, there's a principle, you fall 8 times, you get up 9. And that's where success is. But if you stay down, if you allow that technique that you're learning, the hurt or the pain or the difficulty of doing it overcome you, then you won't grow. And so we have this principle of look, see, do in martial arts.
Okay.
So you look, so you just observe.
Yeah.
And see means you look with intentionality, how exactly the foot moves or the hand moves or the body moves. And then you do. And in the doing, you learn. So the looking and the seeing is just to say, well, I've seen it happen, so I know it's possible.
Yeah.
In the seeds, I've watched the movement. In the doing, you cast your mind back and said, what are the things that I'm not accomplishing because I can't get to the end goal, and then you go through that cycle again.
Yeah.
You fall 8 times, you get up 9. I think that's a principle of life in there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you're at the forefront of AI and automation, and I'm curious to know, how do you see that partnering with human connection?
This world is divided, well, colloquially, the world is divided into 2 schools. There's the AI that's going to compete head first with humanity, and then potentially humanity is a loser there. And there's a camp that I'm part of that says AI is a technology like any other technology. It's something that we have created. It's something that can be beneficial. Like every tool, it can be either a weapon or something for good. And I think we shouldn't have this dystopian idea in our heads about AI, and that we should see it as an augmentation, as a tool that can improve our lives. But if we have this fear factor about it, then we'll see it, we'll filter it, our view of it will be that one-dimensional, and we'll always be in this, and we'll invite it into a fist fight with us because we're afraid of it, we're scared of what it will do. We don't see it as a tool to augment what we do and how we can improve our lives. Yes. That's the perspective I have. The second thing I'll say about AI is I'm a big advocate for we shouldn't allow technology to take away our humanity. So we shouldn't see technology as this tool for replacing jobs or replacing communities. We should direct the technology in areas to improve lives. We should direct the technology in areas where it can help people. And in doing that, we shouldn't lose our humanities. We should use technology to help us care more, to help us do more, to help us be better.
What does that look like?
To those that are less in ourselves.
What does that look like? Maybe give us an example.
I can give you a wonderful example of AI. And it's the whole idea of, we'll go back to the calculator. Before the calculator, people had the abacus or toes or whatever they were counting on. And they got the calculator.
Yes.
But then after calculator, we got Excel.
Yes.
Well, some people still use the calculator. So we got Excel. But in that motion, what it allowed, what happened, just like the telephone, what happened was there's certain competencies we didn't have to have anymore. You didn't have to hold a lot of numbers in your head.
Of course.
Because now you could put it somewhere where a lot of numbers can be held.
Yeah.
Do you understand the analogy? Same with the telephone. Like, I knew everybody's number 10, 15 years ago. I know 3 people's numbers now.
Yes.
And one of them has to be my wife, so I know my wife's number.
Yeah.
But so we don't hold as many numbers in our head. But that's not a bad thing. You can make it into a bad thing. So similarly, when you look at the communities we serve or the environments we participate in, how are we redirecting that technology to help people accomplish more or do things that they were not able to do before? I was looking at a piece of technology recently that was talking about how you can You can clean water more efficiently using technology, predictably, with analysis, flow, rainfall, flow of the river,
That's phenomenal.
water flow, and then you use this analytics so that you can tell when the water is good to drink,
Yes.
when the water is not good to drink, and what
Yeah.
are some of the things you should do without having needing or requiring an expert to be there at every point in time in the supply chain to tell you whether it's advisable or not to have the water. There's a lot of consequences of drinking unclean water.
Yes.
And then you can use technology to help you make a better decision.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So whenever I think of human connection, I'm always thinking about networks and just building connections, because I believe that's one of those things in business that we have to master. And with the rise of AI and automation and just the digital space as a whole, what would you say to a young entrepreneur like myself who wants to build relationships and great connections with people?
Yeah.
And we've got the rise of social media now where you can connect with people online, but how do we maximize that?
The wonderful thing about Johannesburg, well, I live here, so I'll use it as the reference.
Yeah.
There are a lot of startup clubs. There are a lot of environments where entrepreneurs get together. There's a lot of funding to help organizations help people connect.
Yes.
And a friend of mine runs one of these, and then I've gone to some of them. There's one actually happening on Thursday this week. Like I said, there's a lot of them happening all the time.
Yeah.
And what you got to do is go and connect there. But a lot of people go there and connect and observe. There are a lot of these platforms that allow you to pitch. And in that pitching, it allows you to refine your pitch. And so you've got to pitch a lot. It's like idols, you've got to sing a lot.
Yeah.
So you got to pitch a lot, and you got to, not just your family who thinks you're the smartest, most beautiful thing in the world.
Yes.
You got to go pitch to a bunch of strangers
Yeah.
who will test your idea amongst other ideas for the veracity of your idea. But don't walk away from there like idols. Don't walk away from there with, well, what they said defines me.
I see.
We should take away the learnings from that, compare ourselves to our peer group, look at what they found advantageous in their pitches versus yours, look at what they saw as the benefit versus yours,
Yeah.
and refine your pitch and refine your idea, because it's only in that iron sharpening iron will you really get good.
That's true.
But if you keep yourself inside of your little environment and you've got everybody around you that acknowledges that you're the most wonderful thing, you may not be able to compete on a global platform.
Interesting.
Or you may not be able to compete on a national platform. And take the opportunities that exist. I encourage everyone to come to companies even like ourselves and pitch. We could do this for you, or we could solve that problem.
Interesting.
We may not like it, but our feedback, even in the no, and even in that I don't think it'll work for us, there's a refinement that happens there.
Yeah.
It's like fall 8 times, get up 9.
Yeah.
You want to apply the principle of every time there's a failure, there's a lesson in it.
Yes.
And then it sounds utopian, but it's actually a practical example. There are many things that we try as a business where we fail, but we don't let the failure define trying the next time. You let it refine the trying the next time.
What do you think builds that, I think that confidence? And I'm curious to know how you managed to do that for yourself as you're growing in your career. Because I remember during my time when I started as an entrepreneur, I was very scared to pitch at businesses and I get to places. But over time, how did you get past that?
I wouldn't say there's a secret formula, other than successful entrepreneurs have failed a lot. So therein lies the secret. Surround yourself with people that have been successful, just a little bit more than you, not exited at $100 million.
$1 billion.
You don't need to find those ones.
Yeah.
There's a few of them around, but it's hard to get access, or there isn't a formula in that. I've spoken to some people that have exited via my network and my friends, and the backstory is a lot more interesting. Is how they went through multiple iterations of productization, and how they went through multiple iterations of market segmentation. Who do I want to solve what problem for? So that's the one thing. The second thing, so surround yourself with people that can help you be successful. The second thing is don't get emotionally attached to your idea.
That is hard. That's very hard.
Sure.
Because especially if you're creative and you had this idea, there's a belief that you only have about this idea that nobody else can ever understand. So how do you not become emotionally attached with your idea, your idea?
With refinement. I'll give an analogy from my life.
Okay.
When I was doing postgraduate studies, and I wanted to do postgraduate studies, and I had a supervisor, and I discussed with her many ideas. And then the advice she gave me consistently was just start writing. And I told her that I don't know what to write about because I haven't refined it enough to write anything. She told me just start writing. I wasted a year contemplating many ideas in my head. Then I started writing, and the art of writing, it's not comfortable for everyone, but you got to start somewhere. So you write the first word, the second word, and so forth.
Yes.
In that art of writing, I then reflected on what I was saying, and then I started testing my idea with myself. Because in my head it was beautiful, it was wonderful, it was exotic. As I wrote it down, I started questioning my idea, I started questioning my biases, I started questioning my conclusions.
I see.
And I think that in that process of even just documenting, detailing, exposing, allowing other people to review, people you trust. As you go through the process, you go through a period of refining your idea in any case.
100%.
But I was emotionally attached to it in my head until I documented it and I reviewed it critically to myself.
I guess that's why there's so much power in journaling.
Yeah.
And being able to put your thoughts that you have in your mind on paper.
Yes. And I say you got to do that in secret, because your secret sins are the worst sins. The public sins, the public debauchery, it's okay.
Yes.
Your friends tell you not to dance on the table again. That's okay. It's the secret sins that hold us back the most. The ones, the self-doubt or the self-deceit.
Yeah.
And those are the things I think that we should expose at least to ourselves. Because if you're not going to be honest with yourself, you're going to struggle a little bit with public criticism and public disappointment.
Yes. Yeah. That's interesting. So for many people that are actually listening or watching this podcast, you've been one of those people in the season of my business that have added so much value
thank you.
Into my business. And every time I come and I have a conversation with you, it actually reminds me of the conversations I used to have with my late father, because my late father was almost like a mentor to me. I would really just kind of unpack my mind and he'd be able to give me strategy. And as I grow, I think a lot about how it's important to have a network of people, or other people that are willing to mentor you and kind of walk your journey with you. I'm fortunate enough that you're there and I can always come and knock into your office and brain dump all my ideas. But I want us to kind of talk about mentorship and how do you actually get somebody to mentor you. And I'd also like to get personal a little bit. And I'd love for you to share your journey around mentorship and what that's done for you so far.
So let's talk about principles first.
Okay.
Firstly, you're being very gracious with your words.
I'm being honest.
And I think that in the idea of mentorship is a village principle.
Okay.
When we grow up in communities, and it's about having community.
Yes.
And now we have these different communities centered around ideas, thoughts, not necessarily geography. In the idea of the village, everybody's mentoring everybody else.
Okay.
There's still a hierarchy. There's still leadership.
Yes.
There's still structure.
Yes.
But the 15-year-old kids are mentoring the 12-year-old kids.
Okay.
Whilst the 15-year-old kids are being mentored by the 18-year-old kids. And so the hierarchy of mentorship goes. I think people that struggle to be mentored or to find a mentor struggle to mentor. So you should, in the act of mentoring other people, that iron sharpening iron analogy that I used.
Yes.
In the act of you mentoring other people, it exposes in you where you need guidance or mentorship in your life. So that's my principle about mentoring. I tell people is, if you're looking for a mentor, are you mentoring? Because otherwise, what is your expectation of mentorship? What is your understanding of what mentorship actually means? So that's the one. I was very fortunate. I stumbled into lots of things in my life. I stumbled into being mentored. The gentleman that mentored me for 16, 17 years, his name is Jacques Millerba. He's late now. He passed away 2 years ago. It was actually his birthday yesterday. So Jacques...
Wasn't it your birthday a few days ago as well? Oh, interesting.
I turned 21 again. So
every year.
Yeah, again. So I celebrated my 27th anniversary of being 21. So in the act of being mentored, in the act of being led by him, he saw something in me that he was prepared to invest in.
Interesting.
And I also saw something in him that I wanted to glean. So you have to be able to identify that. And I think the relationship between a mentor and a mentee is symbiotic. It's not one directional in terms of I want to be mentored by you, now brain dump or lead me. The mentor has to be as invested in an outcome for themselves. What does the mentor gain from this? And sometimes you get people that want to mentor because they just want to tell people how clever they are. But you also find people in my relationship with my mentor where he saw in me, and after many years of us talking about many things, he saw in me and he told me that he saw the potential in me to achieve some of the things that he couldn't achieve, and he was prepared. He called it leaving fingerprints on people. Mentorship is the idea of leaving fingerprints on their back, not footsteps for them to follow. So it goes like you want to leave that invisible imprint on them, that only the person that you supported knows that you supported them. It's not a public display of leadership. It's not a public accolade that you want. It's the joy that you get as a mentor from seeing the other person achieve in an area where potentially you couldn't achieve, or where you can see that 1% that you gave them adds to the 100% they got, which is that 1% they wouldn't have gotten easily by themselves.
That's true.
And that's the benefit of mentorship. It's not to give them 99% of what they don't have and only let them arrive with their own 1%.
Yes.
It's the other way around.
Yeah. So if we're looking at it from the perspective that I am like a young entrepreneur, really just trying to make it through. And what normally happens in cases like that is when you look up to somebody, you almost sometimes can feel like you're annoying them or you're just pestering them. So how do you show value that you are worth the mentor's time or the potential mentor's time and energy and resources?
It comes with growing, and it comes with taking risks. Excuse me. If you're given an idea, or you're given advice, or you're given a picture, what you do with that is more important than what you heard. As my sensei used to say, when we train, that the class is not the class, the coffee is not the period of learning. It's what you do between classes that tells you whether you are actually invested in this idea or concept of growth. If the only coaching you or the only growth you're having is during class, then you're doing something wrong. And I think when you approach the idea of a mentor and you want to engage them and you want to glean something from them, how prepared are you to invest the hours it will take to derive benefit from the things that you discuss? And if you're not emotionally engaged enough to that outcome, then I think you will disappoint the person that's mentoring you.
Sure. So you really need to also be willing to do the work.
It's not a magical formula.
Yeah.
Like I said, the mentor's only going to give you 1%. That other 99% comes from your hard work and effort of application, of your own gleaning, of your own development, of your own growth. It's not a secret formula to success. Come berry juice, as they say. It's not going to help you.
That's interesting. Do you ever suffer from imposter syndrome?
You talking about people that ideologically position themselves but not really have any intention to be that way?
Wait, what do you mean? Explain that.
Well, there's a lot of people that somebody comes up to me and says, I want to be mentored.
Okay.
And they sell me the story of why they want to be mentored.
Okay.
But they have no intention of doing that other than they like the romantic notion of having a mentor or being associated with you. Is that what you're asking?
No. I'm asking if you ever suffer from imposter syndrome. So I'll give you an example. I was invited to speak at a big event last year towards the end of the year, and it was really big. It was like a national council. I don't want to mention the name on the podcast. And I had a bit of fear because I thought to myself, shucks, I mean, they picked me to come and like do an hour session. Just kind of feeling like, is this a space for me? Maybe just being more nervous and feeling like you're not as great as other people see you as you are.
The people that I read a little bit. And there are some sporting greats and other greats, but I'll use the sporting greats now because Usain Bolt jumped into my head. Yeah. And they talk about the way they feel just before they achieve greatness. They don't know they can achieve the greatness they hope to, but I'm gonna post. But how they feel, that butterflies in your stomach.
Yeah.
And I think that in all of us, there's there's a little normalization that we need to have, that it's okay to be human. It's okay to have self-doubt.
Yeah.
It's okay not to be confident. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay is not to prepare,
That's true.
not to learn, not to invest, not to grow. It's not okay to just arrive and wing it. It's not okay not to prepare and do the hard yards of aligning all of the fonts
Yes.
and the lines. That kind of effort, that attention to detail
Yeah.
is important, not just for your audience, it's important for yourself, that you show that you care. My mentor did something interesting with me once. He asked me to write a document on a topic, which I thought I was quite an expert at.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time I submitted the document to him a day or two later, he goes, you should work on the document again. There's a few areas I wasn't happy with. After about 9 or 10 times, I can't remember. I think it was, the number 9 jumps in my head. I think it was 9 or 10.
That's a lot of times.
Yes, a lot of times of rewriting the document. It took about 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
When I gave him the dinner and I said, I remember the incident, I put it on his desk and I went like, Shark, this is it. This is the plan. I've put everything in it. He looks at me and goes like, I'm going to go with the plan. I say, you haven't even read it yet. He says, I never read any one of them.
What?
Yes. He said, I never read any one of them. I sent it back. And you never arrived like this until now. Fully confident in your plan.
Oh my gosh.
Saying, I've put in all the hours, I've done all the research, I've gone everywhere. You spent the 4 months on it. You never gave up. You spent the 4 months on it. And now you've presented the plan, we're going to go with it. And we built a very successful business on the back of that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful story.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have told everybody else. Who you are going to mentor one day and say, give me a document.
Yeah, now I'm going to do that to everybody that I work with.
I think the principle is important though. That did you do your best? Did
Wow.
you try? Or was it something you banged out last night?
Yeah.
And you're expecting people to see value in it,
Yeah.
even though you didn't put the hours and the effort into it. And it's not
Yes.
you didn't arrive with the best. You arrived with the best that you could get away with, and that's dangerous.
That's why you're always willing to go back and work on it.
Yes, if you can,
Ooh.
do it.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
But will we ever feel like our first draft is enough?
No, you shouldn't. It's a fallacy, because there's always more that you can learn.
That's true.
Every product can be better. That's why you get versions of the iPhone.
Yeah.
They didn't stop at 7,
Yeah.
6. You know.
Yeah.
And then and that incremental improvement, the Japanese call it Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. It's if you subscribe to that philosophy of continuous improvement, you'll be a better mentor, you'll be a better mentee, and you'll be a better person.
Interesting.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, I subscribe to it, so yeah.
It's very interesting, because as you're speaking, I'm thinking that on the opposite side of that is like the lazy way to solve problems, is like the shortcut. And this is something you talk a lot about, that there's three lazy ways to solve a problem, which is one is you put money in it. And then number 2, you put people on it. And I'd love you to expand on the third one, but also I'd love some guidance on how do we actually get past those 3 lazy ways to solve a problem? Because I'm thinking at it from an entrepreneurship perspective, where if I'm a solopreneur, like in our business where there's like 3 of us in the company, chances are we're all taking a lot of roles. So we don't have much flexibility to actually get into depth in the other roles. How do we navigate that? And how do we then start looking into the 4th solution, the 5th solution, that is not part of the lazy ways to solve problems?
Yeah, lazy way to solve problems. So let's do the first 2 quickly.
Okay.
You understand the principle behind throwing money at the problem. You throw resources at the problem.
Yeah.
You buy your way out of a problem, or you try to buy your way out of a problem. It's easy to do,
Yes.
relatively, if you've got the money to do it.
Okay.
The second one about people is the same thing. Let's hire someone to do it. Let's go get an expert. There's somebody else that can do it. I don't want to figure out how to build my own web page. Let's go get a web developer to do it. Is it possible for you to acquire the skills? It's not a consideration. It's how best do I get somebody else to do it? And there's nothing wrong with teaming, and there's nothing wrong with associating yourself with experts.
Yes.
But there is something wrong with not contributing. So you got to put the effort in to understand, so you can contribute. So don't give it to the web developer.
Yes.
Learn a little bit something about HTML and web
Yeah.
development before you go away. How do you then contribute effectively to the project?
So on
that's-
that point,
that's lazy.
sorry, before you go into the other one, I'm thinking to myself, what if my thing is like, I just want to maximize my time in doing what I'm good at? Because usually those are the excuses, or ideally that's the thought process, that I want to apply my mind to what I am good at, which is this, and I want somebody else to be able to take care of something that
There's a level of arrogance there, because if you were good at it, you would be making money from it, and then you can afford to pay people to do the work. But the fact that you still want to get somewhere
means you're not good at it yet.
Don't believe
I like
your own
that.
bullshit.
I love that.
Right. That's one of the 3 principles my mentor taught me. Rule number 1, don't believe your own bullshit.
Okay.
Right. So any case, so we go people,
Money.
or money. The third one is not as intuitive, is you remove or you cut or you reduce. What I mean by that is you take something away from it. You go, it's too hard to achieve what we want to. What I'm going to do is remove that capability.
Interesting.
Or I'm going to cut some costs. It's so hard to, my business is not doing great. I'm going to remove some costs. I'm going to close down my shop. I'm going to sell my car. I'm going to cancel my insurance policy. So there's many things that you remove. And I'll also call it a lazy solution. Because in what you're admitting then, when you're taking something away, is I made a poor decision in putting it in place. So you got to question your own decisions. Am I committed to the idea of having that location? There's nothing wrong with change or recalibrating.
Yes.
But if it's a quick, easy, I'm going to take that away.
Yeah.
I'll be more profitable. I'm going to dismiss this employee. I'm not going to invest in that. I'm going to delay studying. It's a lazy way out. So those 3 things for me is when I see a problem and people recommending a solution where it starts with one of those 3 things, I think there was not a lot of application done, or there wasn't a lot of critical thinking done to actually solving the problem. The tool that was used is a self-evident tool. And if you're going to use self-evident tools, then why do we need all of us to be in the room? Just apply the formula. The reason why every one of us arrives is every one of us arrives with experience, with knowledge, with insight, with learnings that are unique to our circumstance.
Yeah.
Let's not normalize ourselves to being like everyone else.
Yes.
Let's not say, I am this person. I'm creative, therefore I can't be technical. I should not understand computers. I'm a creative. What do I have to know in that space? And those are little lies we tell ourselves to incubate us from the hard work of the learning, from the hard work of the investment that we have to do to get there.
Yeah. That is so true, because I mean, to the third point, I'd imagine the excuse here is like agility and adaptability. I want to be able to make decisions very quickly, etc. So if we were to critically think about the decisions and how we're moving in our business, what do we need to do? What's the flip side of not applying those 3 lazy solutions to the problems we have?
My principle that I give to the teams that I have the opportunity to lead is we can always think better about something.
Okay.
Any way we think about it. I'm not talking about expert versus novice.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the way I think about clean water, the way I think about building a business, the way I think about leading my family. Yes. I can always think better about it.
Yeah.
Once you accept the fact that the way you're thinking about it is not the best possible way, it opens up opportunity for you to think differently, improve your thinking, accept external advice or external input into what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
That's the first step, is abandoning the idea that you already know how to solve the problem. Or you use the review mirror to solve the problem. Okay. In the past, we did it like this. Therefore, in the future, we'll repeat how we did it in the past.
Okay.
Don't run your life, and don't run your business, and don't run your ideation looking in a review mirror. Look into the future, and in the future, you've got to accept that it's unknown, it's uncertain.
Yes.
I may not have all of the answers, and that's why I'm going to surround myself with people, surround myself with books, or surround myself in a community where I can think better about what's going to come.
So would I be correct to say that the only way to know that you're thinking about it right and you are applying yourself in a better manner is you have to do it 9 times, and on the 9th time,
that's right,
when you have no other option,
that's right,
then that's the final one.
That's the way.
And then let's talk about time, because I mean, for small businesses, we really don't have enough time to try something or fail something 9 times. Yeah. Well, I think we do, but maybe because we're trying to make money right away, we're trying to stay afloat. So how do we bridge that gap in terms of learning, but also being very conscious about the time that we have?
Something else that I learned seems like everything I think about I learned from my mentor, but let's go. He said two things to me. He
Yeah.
said, when you want to think about changing something or doing something, it must always remove work. Don't create new work. So if you, an example is a process. If you put a process in place,
Okay.
it should remove two processes. Otherwise, you're just creating more work.
Okay.
So that's lazy thinking once again.
All right.
Do good thinking, find a way to implement something that removes two other things. Otherwise, you're just adding on to more work.
Yes.
That's the one as an entrepreneur.
Interesting.
I'll recommend. Don't keep on adding things to do.
Yeah.
Find a way to efficiently remove other things.
Yes.
That's the one. You should remove a process. Number two is, he taught me, before you think about what processes you want to remove, or what processes you want to put in place, or what things you want to put in place, activities, teams, etc. Listen to your customer, because your customer's voice is important. You know, all customers are liars. We all lie, right? All customers are liars, but there's truth in that myth that your customers present to you.
Why do you say all customers are liars?
Because they're not really interested in your positive outcome. They're interested in theirs.
Of course. So more selfish?
When I say lies, they're going to go like, you should improve your price, right? And make more of your product available to me. Okay, cool, sure.
Okay.
It's not untrue,
Okay.
but it's still a lie.
Okay. Got you.
But listen to your customer, because if there's a difference between their perception and your ideation, then it's probably their perception that is a little bit more important, because you want them to consume.
Interesting.
So listen to what your customers are saying. In that narrative, right, what we may think is a myth, there's actually some truth beneath it.
Yeah.
That will inform where you should go.
Yes.
So don't just tell yourself, like I said, in your little quiet corner, that this is where I should be going and this is what I should be improving. If you need to get a North Star, the North Star is don't create more work and listen to what your customer is saying.
Interesting.
Or your future customer is saying.
Very interesting. You mentioned something that really sparked a light bulb in me, and that's teams. Because I do remember I came to your office quite a couple of weeks ago, and I needed some advice on a team member. How do we build great teams, especially for small businesses where our resources are already limited, and we aren't necessarily giving one person like a specific role, but they're taking quite a number of roles. And my recent learning being that people that start with you won't always be with you all the time, but you're emotionally attached to them because you guys were such a small team. How do we navigate building teams for success, especially if we want to eventually scale and build a bigger and greater business?
A very good friend of mine was a successful entrepreneur. Taught me this principle: is that you run your business from the ideation phase like a listed company. So the way you run your books, the way you do your employment, you apply to leave to himself. He filled out a leave form.
Wow.
It's a principle, and he's built many successful businesses, exited to listed companies.
Okay.
And he's still got, he's now expanding his fintech now internationally. So he's based in Toronto right now, and he's still a South African-based company.
Interesting.
And he says all of the business he ran, he started them off like a listed company. It forces you to have the disciplines in your business that you overlook when you're a young company, thinking we don't need that. We don't need that process. We don't need that oversight. But yes, you do, because in that process of oversight, in the process of establishing governance, you put down principles, guiding principles for how you treat people.
That's
you
true.
put some guiding principles for how you treat yourself. Accountability.
Yeah.
Even though there's nobody else to be accountable except yourself.
Yeah.
It teaches you all these principles of running your business, the disciplines of running your business that you wouldn't naturally, organically come because it seems like more work.
Interesting.
The idea of governance, compliance, standards and processes.
Yes.
And that's why we get significantly humongous companies that have these ideologies in them, is because it helps you keep pointed at where you want to be and helps you remove processes, governance and compliance, helps you remove the things that will weaken your position as an organization in the context of where you want to operate, in the industries that you want to operate in. The financial sector, for example, and a fintech company, as an example, he's now in a fintech company, and I understand a little bit of that environment. It's probably the most governed environment in the world. We get a lot of companies, young entrepreneurs, want to start off having fintech companies. I know a lot of the technology.
It's the in thing now.
Yes, it's very cool. It's very cool to say you're a fintech.
Yeah.
The governance that you're inviting to your life is something that not everybody can contend with. And the governance that you're inviting into your life is something that takes a lot of hard work to understand and to understand how you can be relevant. Don't try to break down something before you understand it, is I always say. So don't give away something. My mentor taught me, don't give away something you've never owned. And until you understand the reason for governance, until you understand the reason for that compliance, don't throw it away.
Yeah.
And I think that in building effective teams, you want to attract people around you, not as sticklers for compliance and governance, but they understand that the nature of work and the nature of business is to be an ethical, responsible organization.
That's true.
How do you build a team? So find people that share a value system with you.
Okay.
Find people that understand that. Find people that will question you, not just blindly follow you.
That's true.
Because you want to have that. You want to have an environment where together we build and together we recognize that there's a season for everybody.
Yes.
There's a season for everything, and we are prepared to accept that maturely when the time comes.
That is so powerful. And I'm thinking to myself, where do we get that information? Because usually in South Africa, we start businesses because we're passionate about them or we've identified a market.
As we should.
Yeah. So where do we go and get this information? How do we know if we've never been exposed to like a JSE listed company? How do we know that this is how they run?
I think it was Mark Twain that said that imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Okay.
So you can be a disruptor, but you can imitate at the same time.
Interesting.
So imitate ideas, imitate behaviors, imitate success.
Yes.
So look for it around you. It could be in a football team.
Yes.
It could be in a business.
Yeah.
It could be in an individual. It could be in a leader in a community.
Yes.
But imitate success.
Yeah.
Find the values that you want to have, but not by just coming up with it by yourself in your bathroom, but also find values based on what does success look like to you and who are those people or organizations or things in that, and try and imitate them.
Yes.
It's a wonderful way to start. It gives you things that are inside the scope and outside of the scope. You can't be everything. You can't do everything. But find things where it says, I resonate with that. I see that ideology as something I want to have. And you go for it.
Yeah, interesting. The thing about conversations like these with you is because I never want to stop. I have so many things to pick your brain on. But I've got two last questions. And the first one is that I remember one of our first meetings a couple of months ago. You gave me this analogy that changed my life. And it would be such an injustice if I didn't expose my audience to it. And I was telling you, I was kind of running past my business model with you. And one of the things you said to me was, do you want to be a McDonald's? Or do you want to be the biggest burger joint down the road? And it actually started, it kind of made my goal more clearer because you gave me two ways and you said pick one. But for the sake of this moment, I'd love for you to kind of give us a brief of what does that mean? And because one of the things I also realized was that it's okay to be either or. It just depends on the goals and the dreams that you have. But what does that mean? And how do we find what is for us?
It starts with, for me, it starts with the way I would position it, is what does success look like? I've made a decision, or I make decisions. I calibrate myself against the North Star idea I have of myself and where I want to be and what I want to be known for and what do I want things in my life to look like. And when I say things, it could be from family, the car you drive, the suburb you live in.
Yes.
To the friends you want to have,
Yeah.
and so forth. And it's the same with business. You got to decide the identity for your business. The cost of being a McDonald's is very different from the cost of being Louis Vuitton.
That's true.
And neither is a good or bad business. There's no good businesses and bad businesses. They are just businesses. The way you run the business determines whether it's a good or bad business.
And maybe how much money it makes? Is that a fair
if you
thing to
decide
say?
that metric of success is important.
Okay.
I think NGOs are just as important.
Absolutely.
You can't discount them because they're not for profit. It's about the identity they had of self.
Okay.
And it's the same for business. Let's not be one-dimensional in how we think about what our business should be or we think what our value is.
Interesting.
Don't build businesses whose personality is different from your personality. Don't build businesses where you can't be your authentic self, where you have to be someone or something that doesn't resonate with who you want to be.
Yeah.
It's easy, though, to be caught up in the fad of being successful means a lot of money. Of course, we all want a lot of money. And I was reading a survey the other day, a paper that said rich people are happier than poor people.
That is very
so
obvious.
Money does get you happiness. But what does that happiness look like?
Okay.
And I said that as I was saying to someone before this podcast, that I haven't made enough money yet to know whether I want to be a philanthropist or not. And I think I don't have the luxury of a lot of money to make that decision. So it's not, ideologically, it's not something that is absent.
Yeah.
But where I am right now, that shouldn't be my exit in my life to go, well, one day I want to be a philanthropist. It should be with what I have today, with what I'm responsible for today.
Yeah.
What is the best version of myself, and what is the best version of my business that I can have today?
I see.
And I think when you build your business that way, or when you build ideas that way, or you build your life that way, it's a little bit more responsible, because most of us are average. You know, we like to think that we're not, but most of us are average.
Very true.
And the most people that go into greatness never knew they were great. Well, maybe a few of them. Well, there was no indicator of what greatness lay within them. Maybe they were smart, maybe they were a little bit attractive, maybe they were a little bit fast.
Yeah.
But it was not self-evident that the greatness was within them. It's the effort that they put in that chiseled out that greatness. And I think it's that incremental greatness that we should all pursue. I think that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, it definitely does. But I'd love for you to get briefly into the difference between McDonald's and the burger joint down the road.
Yeah, okay, you want to go there?
Yes, please.
It's who you want your audience to be and what you want your company to be.
Okay.
I know a lot of people that want to be the burger joint down the road, the boutique burger place down the road with the McDonald's success. McDonald's would not have gotten its success if it didn't. One of the main reasons people go to McDonald's, why I think most people go to McDonald's, is because of consistency. So they're not the best burger in the world.
Absolutely.
They're not the cheapest burger in the world. There are cheaper burgers. But you can go to a McDonald's anywhere in Joburg, and there's a pretty good chance that it tastes exactly the same. So you know what you're getting.
Yes.
And if you want to have a scale business, consistency is a little bit more important than uniqueness. If you want to be unique, if you want to be different from the crowd, the chances are you're going to have to make some sacrifices to maintain the unique status that you have as a business. You've got to decide what success looks like for you. In the case of McDonald's, they want you to make a good burger. In the case of the burger joint down the road, they want to be a great burger house. But trying to be good and great at the same time is you're going to end up in a trough of disillusionment. And in the trough is you're going to have to make decisions. Do I buy the best quality beef out there, if you're making beef burgers? Or do I buy the good enough quality where I'm not robbing the people, where I'm giving them something that's good enough?
Yes.
But I know that wherever they go in my franchise or wherever they go in my business, they're going to have the same experience.
Yeah.
I think there was a Harvard Business Review that said the change that happens in a company from 120, 150 people to more is fundamental. When you're a company under 100 people, you can run like an organic organization. You can make things up. Everybody can be happy.
Yes.
You can know everybody's names. You can know what everybody's doing. You get above 150, the principles, the processes, the ideology that made you successful up to that point won't take you beyond 150. You have to revisit a lot of your base assumptions. And what you see may not be something that you want for yourself. Then you can remain a cool burger joint down the road, but you won't become a McDonald's. That sacrifice is very hard for most businesses to make, most founders to make. And that's where you get the strife in an organization that is created just because of a lack of understanding of what identity you want to take on or persona you want to have.
That is so powerful. So how do we understand the identity that we want to take as a business? Because I mean, every time we start a business, we're thinking we are going McDonald's route because we're going to be that famous and we're going to be great. And then, but we've got a burger down the road concept or recipe. So how do we actually know our place?
That's an interesting question. I'll tell you how we answer it as a business.
Okay.
We understand that we're a scale business.
Okay.
In a scale business, creating value, you can only build value that is value at scale. If it's expensive value, it's hard to scale it because your costs and your proposition run at the same gradient.
I see.
And no scale business wants its costs to outpace or run at the same pace of revenue or value creation.
That's true.
So there's some sacrifices you have to make in that. You end up being a McDonald's.
Yeah.
because you can't give the value proposition you want to have.
Yeah.
And that's why I say that as a founder, I'm not a founder. As a founder, as an entrepreneur, maybe you don't have to make those sacrifices now.
Yeah.
But note that it could be in your strategic future.
That's true.
And then the people that you bring on board, don't make promises you can't keep in that strategic future. Don't promise people that we'll get a family. We'll always be a family. I've heard so many founders say that and they're disappointed.
That's true.
Down the line. So think carefully about how you position yourself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just ego driving your strategy.
That is true.
Not sane ideology.
Yeah, that is very true. Wow. That's very interesting. I always feel like I need a moment after talking to you because I have so much to digest.
My wife would say I have too many words.
I think she's very right. So you have navigated the intersection of sales and entrepreneurship and digitization. And I'm curious to know two things. First thing, how can SMEs sell their offerings a bit more better? That's the first one. And the second one is, what trends do you anticipate coming that we need to be on the lookout for?
Maybe I'll answer both those questions, maybe in one, and then we'll see where that takes us.
Okay.
If you're not digital, you're not a real SME. We are in a digital economy, so the primary mechanisms of success should be digital in nature. Social media is not being digital; it's one dimension of being digital.
100%.
There's many dimensions of being digital. If you're starting a business today, I recommend that you think very carefully about your data model that you want to have.
Okay.
How do you manage data? How do you get data?
Yes.
What is data? What is meaningful data? So you think about your data environment. You think about you also think about your route to market as a small business of being digital, because you can, the nice thing about where technology is, AI, we mentioned it earlier, a lot of the technology, cloud, is democratizing access to technology. Okay. So more businesses at every level can have access to the most complex technology in the world. Whereas a few years ago, that was not possible.
Wasn't the case, yeah.
You had to be some of the biggest businesses in the world to have access to the coolest technology. So cloud, AI, etc. is democratizing access to technology. So in that democratization comes a little bit of responsibility.
Yeah.
You don't have the excuse anymore saying, we don't know, therefore we don't have to.
That's true.
You do have access now, so you should know. So as a small business, think about what are the things out there that you want to accomplish, and what tools are available, technology tools are available to solve the problem. I know of small businesses that we do business with that use a number of different tools, most of them free, because the premium version gives you 100% of the features.
Yes.
But the freemium version gives you 50 or 80% of the features.
Yeah.
But build your business around 50 or 80 of those features. Don't build it around the feature you don't have. Build it around the technology and the features you do have access to. So I think at the intersection of what's coming in the world of technology, at an intersection of starting a business, that think about being a digital first business, not just a social media first business, but how do I use tools and capabilities that exist to solve problems that I didn't know existed.
Interesting.
I think it's a responsible way to build a business.
Interesting. Is this part of Access Connect to Connect?
Yes, exactly that. We bring some of the most complex technologies in the world, enterprise technologies. We represent them across the continent, from IBM to Microsoft, to some of the biggest infrastructure and hardware companies, like Cisco, Dell, etc. Yes. Part of the Connect program that we have for SMEs is saying, we will introduce you, or we will allow you to be a part of an ecosystem where you will engage with what success one day will look like for you. Yeah. The bigger companies, the bigger vendors that right now you may not have access to, purely because you don't have the revenue or the customer base or the wherewithal inside of your business, and how to play in that space. Us as an organization want to bridge that gap, to say we've got access, we've got experience, we understand it, and what we want to make available to you, because it's like a good mentor-mentee relationship. There's benefit for us. True. You will be the future customers for us. Yeah. Why can't we help you on the journey as an organization to get there? By giving you access to tools and resources that you can't organically develop by yourself. Interesting. And I think big companies, I'm convinced, big companies have this responsibility that to themselves and their shareholders.
Yeah.
Is that if you're not helping small businesses in a responsible way, who are going to be your future customers? And are you building a sustainable future for yourself? It's the same with investing in your employees. It's the same with investing in technology. If you're not going to invest in technology, how will you be a business relevant in the future?
Yes.
And if you're not investing in your employees, how do you responsibly ask them to be architects of their own demise? You guys keep the business running while we go and employ new people and we implement new technologies to take away your jobs. That's not a responsible business.
Yes.
You're not being responsible for the people you have right now. How then? What identity are you creating for your business for the future? Don't do that to yourself. Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
And don't sell your future short.
Yeah.
Use technology. Use artificial intelligence. Use cloud to help your business and help the people in your business participate in your digital future.
Interesting. So what kind of businesses can be part of Access Connect and how do we become part of it?
Well, we're a channel-focused B2B business, and we are focused on the ICT channel. So principally the organizations that we work with are companies building capability or services or just resell in the enterprise technology space. So like some of the technology I mentioned, there's over 50 technologies we have in our stable with different franchises around the continent. So it's those companies that want to take technology and pass it on or sell it on or provide services on to enterprise customers. We've got a number of small businesses. We've got, there's about 25% of our revenue that comes from that segment of the market.
Interesting.
Channel segment of the market, we call it, which is, in the traditional terms, we call it onesies and twosies, where you sell one or two.
Yes.
You're not selling millions. You're selling one or two, but you're prepared to invest in the skill, the knowledge, and the capability to develop
And eventually sell more.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think the people that are successful with us are the ones that are prepared to invest in their own businesses.
Yeah.
They're not looking for a handout. They're not looking for a freebie. It's nice when we get those.
Yes.
But the business model is not premised on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So if there's anybody that's watching and that is interested in what you've just mentioned, how do they get in touch with Access Connect?
We've got just Google Access with a Z,
Yes.
Connect. It'll come up with a URL. Click on the URL. You can register, and we'll take it from there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is Andrew J Moodley, everybody. I keep getting your name wrong. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
you.
I have so many questions that I want to ask you. So this means that this is not the last time that you're going to join us on the podcast, and we're going to see you again. Yes. Thank you very
hopefully.
much.
Let's see if your audience wants to hear what I have to say.
They probably do, because I always want to, and we are. You said we mustn't say we're a family, because then that's like other things. So we are a community here.
We are a community.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been lovely.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you so much to our Resonate community for watching and listening to this podcast. If you are listening to it online, on your way to work, whatever it is that you're doing right now, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait for you guys to tell me what you've learned from this podcast, what just really sparked a light bulb from everything that we've been talking about. Let me know in the comments section if you're watching on YouTube, or just give it a review if you're listening to it on all the podcast platforms. I'll see you guys next time.